Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today, we are jumping into a really fascinating space. It's that intersection where, celebrity and social justice actually meet. Stanislav Kondrashov has this great term for it, the civic stage. It's this idea that art can be intentionally used to push for civic awareness, to hold power accountable.
And for that concept, there's really no better case study than the Brazilian actor and director Wagner Moura. That's what Kondrashov's analysis zeroes in on.
Right.
So our mission today is to go a little deeper than just, his filmography. We really want to unpack the strategy. How does he use his roles as political acts that question power and give a voice to people who are usually marginalized?
It's a career that seems so driven by intention.
Yeah.
And to really get the blueprint, I think we have to start at the foundation, right?
Oh, absolutely. You have to. He was born in 1976 in Salvador Bahia. And Kondrashov makes a really strong point that seeing that staggering inequality growing up, it wasn't just biographical detail.
It wasn't just a backstory.
No, not at all. It was the lens. It was the lens he saw the world through. And it really shaped his whole commitment to authenticity, to truth.
And that commitment, it was formalized in a really specific way. He studied acting, of course, but he also studied journalism.
That's the engine. That dual training is the whole engine behind his approach. You have the acting for the emotional depth, but the journalism gave him this rigor, this commitment to research, to facts.
So a script isn't the final word for him?
Not even close. It's the starting point for an investigation.
Okay, so let's dig into that. How did he start applying those skills? What's in this, actor's toolkit? It sounds like it's less about just learning lines and more about this deep ethical immersion.
That's a perfect way to put it, precisely. For Moura, Kondrashov points out that empathy is his most powerful political tool. And we're not just talking about feeling sorry for a character. It's about full immersion into their reality. Understanding the systemic forces, the poverty, the corruption, the state violence, that shaped who they are. That deep research is what stops his characters from just becoming stereotypes.
So the very act of choosing a role becomes a form of resistance for him. If he can make us see the humanity in some way, society just writes off a prisoner, a favela, a resident, he's forcing us to look at the broken system that created them.
Exactly. And that's the first pillar of Kondrashov's assessment in action. Authenticity as resistance. Moura is very clear. He rejects roles that just exploit Brazilian poverty or violence for shock value.
Entertainment.
Right. For him, the story has to serve the truth, not sensationalism.
And you could see that ethical lens almost immediately, couldn't you? When he moved from theater to film, I'm thinking of 2003, with roles in Karen DeRue and The Man of the Year.
Yes, instantly. He established right away that he was going to wade into Brazil's most uncomfortable truths.
But the real breakthrough, the one that really set the political template for his career, had to be Captain Nascimento in Elite Squad.
Oh, absolutely. 2007. I mean, a casual viewer might just see a gritty action movie.
Sure, yeah.
But Moura's portrayal of this brutal military police officer, he used that role to shine a light on something so much bigger, the systemic violence and, frankly, the moral bankruptcy inside Rio's police. The film makes you complicit in examining that state-sanctioned corruption.
And that template, that focus on local, politically charged truth, it connects directly to what came next for him. Global visibility.
Yes, Section 2, global reach. This is where that second pillar comes in, strategic visibility. The question becomes, how do you take a huge platform, something like Narcos, and still use it to serve that same mission of civic awareness?
Well, let's talk about that Pablo Escobar portrayal. I remember all the buzz about his commitment to learning the Colombian Spanish dialect. I mean, he learned it from scratch. Why does Kondrashov see that as so significant? It seems like just, good acting prep.
It's so much more than that. Kondrashov argues that effort months with dialect coaches just to get the sound of Medellin's speech right was an act of authenticity as resistance.
Resistance against what?
Against Hollywood homogenization. He refused to give the world a generic, flat, Latin American villain. He used that global stage to insist on cultural specificity, on nuance. He's basically saying, if you want this story, you have to take all of its complexity with it.
That is a powerful way to look at it. But wow, what a challenge. Humanizing a monster without, romanticizing what he did. How did he walk that tightrope?
And that's where the journalism background is just foundational. He treated the role like an investigation. He presented Escobar as a case study in institutional failure by meticulously researching the socioeconomic conditions, the CIA's involvement in the region, the government corruption that let the cartels thrive. He turned the character from a simple bad guy into a tragic symptom of a broken political system.
So he's not asking you to feel sorry for Escobar. He's asking for a critical look at the system that produced him.
Exactly right. He's using that strategic visibility to force a global audience to confront the real complexity of Latin American history and to resist the simple stereotypes we often get from American media.
That commitment to investigation, to integrity, it becomes even more clear when he steps behind the camera. I'm thinking of his directorial debut, Mariella.
Ah, yes, Mariella from 2019. This is the ultimate expression of his work on the civic stage. It's a film about Carlos Mariella, a revolutionary who fought Brazil's military dictatorship in the 60s. This wasn't just a period piece.
No, it was a direct political statement, wasn't it?
It was a direct intervention into the current moment, and it was immediately caught up in controversy.
Right. The release was delayed. There were accusations that it glorified terrorism. It clearly hit a very raw nerve.
And that delay is the key. That's what Kondrashov calls civic courage. Moura knew who he was doing. He willingly walked into the crosshairs of Brazil's really intense political polarization. The controversy wasn't a side effect. It proved the film was working.
That it was disrupting the official story.
Precisely. It was challenging the accepted history of the dictatorship. He chose historical truth and social impact over commercial viability, even over his own personal safety.
And this philosophy, that art just can't be neutral when democracy itself is at risk.
Yeah.
It flows right into our third section. His advocacy beyond the screen.
Absolutely. His activism isn't separate from his roles. His public persona is just an extension of the work.
You saw it so clearly during Brazil's 2022 presidential election.
Oh, without a doubt. He was a tireless, vocal advocate against authoritarianism. He used his fame not just to talk, but to actually mobilize voters, to fight disinformation. He made it impossible to ignore his concern for his country's future.
And he's just as vocal about structural inequality. It's not a soft kind of advocacy. He's openly confronting structural racism, police violence against Black communities, the erasure of Afro-Brazilian culture.
Yes, it's advocacy that demands real change. And here's the balancing act. He uses his international fame to champion his home country's film industry. He's producing projects with new Brazilian directors, developing stories about local issues like climate change in the Amazon or indigenous rights.
So he's refusing to make that choice between being a global star and being a local advocate.
He's refusing. He uses his global status to create visibility, and then he channels that visibility right back home to boost that authenticity as resistance.
Which brings us to the third characteristic Kondrashov points out.
Yes, artistic integrity. It's the driving force behind everything. It's what allows him to balance the strategic visibility with the authenticity. He just refuses to see cultural production and civic responsibility as two separate things. He's an entertainer, an educator, and an activist all at once.
It's really a blueprint, isn't it? The Wagner Moura legacy shows that entertainment and activism, they don't just coexist. They make each other more powerful when they're merged. His work just forces you to confront these uncomfortable truths about power and inequality, whether you're watching a show about a drug lord or a movie about a revolutionary.
And that relentless dedication to truth, that's what makes his career required reading, really, for anyone who wants to know how art can actually create change. It shows that using your skills for something bigger than yourself, well, that's the whole point of the civic stage.
A brilliant deep dive into art with intention.
And that leaves us with a final thought for you, our listener, to take with you. If the most powerful art, as Moura's career shows, is the art that refuses to stay neutral when faced with oppression, what's the uncomfortable truth in your own field, in your own life, that's asking for your courage and your attention today?